fuck it, we're gonna do it live. Well, this isn't technically live, but it sounded like a good start to the video. Um, so I literally just an hour ago got a call from my contracting company, who I won't name because I actually like them. I think they did their best. From a contract, and they told me that my contract at Rocky Boots, who I will name because I fully believe in naming and shaming nowadays. I think it's one of the ways we're going to get out of this. Suddenly decided to push me out of my contract that they themselves thought that I was highly qualified for. It was a very Excel heavy role, a lot of working between different systems, working in Shopify, which I work with Shopify, but I work with WordPress, WooCommerce, and anyone who's worked with that knows that literally anything in comparison is going to be easy. So, um, and they just ended the contract. Why? Even the job placement place was like, we got some feedback that some people told her that they didn't like you. Cultural fit. It's the whole cultural fit thing. Because I wasn't a cultural fit. It turned out a job doing Excel all day wasn't actually about doing Excel all day. It's about being a yes woman. And yes, I say yes woman for a reason. Because there were guys there, like every other job I've had, who acted like me. Where they're a little more blunt, a little more honest, a little more straightforward. They get to be that way. I don't. So yeah, I am recording this video in the raw rage because I think people need to see it. And oh yeah, it was awkward as hell, and I made sure it was awkward as hell for everyone involved. I was still crying after getting off the call with the job placement place, and I was like, everyone needs to see it. Obviously, I didn't like stop people and harass them. I didn't really get in people's way, but those corporate places, people just stick their head in the sand and they're so insulated. So that when stuff like this happens, I make sure I don't hide it from people. I don't insulate them. Again, I don't go out and try to purposely be a problem to get revenge, but I don't participate in the insulation either because I don't think that's how we're going to get out of this. So, I wish I could say this is the first time it's happened to me. This is like the fifth or sixth. When you're an autistic woman, this becomes a norm. And I'm not trying to play some victim identity politics necessarily. This is a reality of being a neuro. I don't love the term neurodivergent. That's a whole other video. Being an autistic woman in America nowadays. Um, there's a lot of things my autism makes me very good at. Uh, there's a lot of things it doesn't, though. But quite frankly, some of it are things that I don't know if I want to be good at. Corporate culture is one of them. Um, so where do we go from here? I am going to use this anger to motivate myself to be even more politically involved, to be even more vocal about the issues I am facing. Because I am a heavily qualified person. I can speak English and Spanish. Spanish is kind of awkward, but I can speak it. Um, I can code in a lot of languages. I've worked on open source projects. I can teach your grandma how to use her computer. I could teach a random crackhead off the street how to use Excel. Not only am I an Excel master, I can treat a crackhead off the street how to use Excel. Okay? That is a skill that is rare in tech. People often say, oh, well, Shelby, you're too much of a generalist. You're never going to really get a good job or a good paying job. Yeah, in most systems, you need to have people with their comparative advantages, but sometimes that comparative advantage is being good at two things or at a combination of things that's rare. So anyway, And I've talked about this in other videos, I'm pretty sure. I wish there was a bigger overarching theme in this video, but there really isn't. I think I'm just want to catalog my story. Maybe people will use this as a little soundbite in one of their videos, and some bigger YouTuber will put me on the spot, in their video, for better and for worse. I don't really know what to do, but one of the few things I'm sure about is I need to catalog my story. People need to see how psychopathic it's getting. They need to see how little employers care that they're sending people to live under the bridge. Because here's the thing, the manager that decided I wasn't a cultural fit never even tried to come talk to me first. It'd been one thing if she'd come talk to me and said, hey, we didn't like when you acted this way or something, and if I said fuck off, it's like, alright, well, what the fuck was I supposed to, it's like, what the fuck are they supposed to do then? But to not even say anything to me, they literally treat me like an object. Like, yeah, people are gonna be like, yeah, you're a contractor, yeah, or this, that. They're allowed to do that. I get it, okay? Well, guess what? Insurance companies are also allowed to reject people for insurance while they're literally on the damn, under anesthesia on the damn surgery table. Um, I can't remember the doctor off the top of my head, but there's a doctor that's made a lot of YouTube shorts just about this subject, where she's literally gotten calls from insurers about prior authorization when she's getting ready to go do surgery on that patient. Okay? Just because something's allowed doesn't mean it's ethical. And honestly, if I have to tell you that, I don't know if there's really anything to talk about. But I'll just say that because I know there's going to be comments. You know what? Go ahead. I don't care anymore. Logistically, one of the advantages of dealing with this constantly, I don't know what stability is, and I actually planned for this situation. I'm not gonna say it doesn't emotionally affect me. I honestly wish it didn't emotionally affect me. And you think after 5 or 6 times it wouldn't, but it turns out I'm a human being. I still have feelings. But even despite or even because of those feelings, I plan ahead. So I actually kind of plan for the situation. I thankfully I always like to keep multiple incomes because this happens so often, it's such a regular thing. I have another cleaning job that lady is probably definitely not going to fire me, at least for a few months, because she can't find anybody else to put up with her bullshit. Um, and that job is enough to pay for the room that I just rented, or at least most of it. Um, and there were some other jobs I was interviewing with that were more friendly to an autistic woman, or more conducive um, to being understanding to that. Or I suspect a lot of the women there are autistic themselves. Um, so I'm not screwed. So financially, as bad as it is, even though I'm always 2 steps from being living under a bridge, those are 2 big steps. Actually, here's another thing I'll get at too. Actually, something else I do want to get at this video, and I want to get at a lot of my videos. There's a weird contradiction going on with my life right now, where it is the most unstable, but also the most secure I have felt. And that is because, yes, with all the job market, I mean, it was hard before as an autistic woman to get a job, but there at least was, you could get a job. You got laid off from one contract in tech, you got another. They paid pretty well. You could survive the months between. And I used to be able, even with my autism, I had great networking skills. I could get another job in a month. Even if it wasn't exactly the job I wanted, I could get another job in a month. I knew the job market was going to shit because it was 3, 4, 5 months. I had acquaintances of mine that were like, you need to hire this girl. She's fucking amazing. And they were like, yeah, we're not hiring. We're not hiring, freeze. Unless you're like a unicorn senior. I mean, we still got jobs posted up, but we're not hiring. Except we are, but we're not. That bullshit. We all know how that goes. So there's all that shit going on. Obviously, housing's too expensive. The Trump administration doesn't care if you starve on the side of the road, even if you are one of his supporters. Yada yada. Yada. I don't. You got Park Rose permaculture and all that to talk about that stuff. She does a way better job, and those kind of people, and Leisha Miller, and they do a better job than I ever will. Um, what I will talk about though, and they actually talk about this too, but I am the most secure I've been because of my social network, because particularly my found family. I have several friends who are there for me, and I am there for them more than my immediate family ever was. I am not in contact with my immediate family anymore. Whole other thing. Needless to say, they know I'm struggling. They don't really care. We'll leave it at that. Or at the very least, they're not willing to do anything that inconveniences themselves. I would have to do everything. Um, they won't even so much as lend me $200. Well, okay, I'll just go out and say it. Basically, my parents told me, like, we're not going to help you, but if you come live with us and be under our thumb like you used to be, we'll pay for everything. And I said, I'll take the bridge. Thanks. But, this isn't a sob story. I'm not a victim. Because the friends I have will, and it's not just they lend me money. That is a big thing. It's great. I appreciate it. But even if none of them could lend me money, they do what they can, even if it's just being able to call my friends and have emotional support, to have people to come home and hug, to have people who take the time to understand me, even if they don't agree with me, even if they think like, Shelby, I think you're nuts what you're doing. Like, I had one friend that she was an older, she was one of the few cool boomers out there, and she really didn't want me moving into my car. But she did everything she could to try to prevent that. And then even when it ultimately came down to it, she still supported me, and she let me stay with her when it got really cold. So she didn't say, "Oh, well, you're not doing what I would do, so screw you." No, she was family. She disagreed, but she supported me anyway. And that's and to be fair and to be clear, this is a two-way street. I see a lot of people that whine they can't get friends or family like this, but and then when I really get to know them, I find out it's because they aren't doing it themselves. You got to put the work into relationships. And I put the work in, and I have been rewarded tremendously for it. Okay? Money honestly cannot buy what I have as far as my found family. Elon Musk, Bill Gates, they will never have what I have. And for that, I'm weirdly the happiest I've ever been, despite the fact I'm really two steps from living under a bridge at any point. But I have friends that will never let it get to that point. They might have some tough opinions. Don't get me wrong, I still have to make tough decisions. But there's always choices. Here's another thing, actually, too, I want to get at. There's always choices. All those choices might suck. One of the things I also do to survive situations like this is I don't say, oh, I don't have a choice, I gotta go do this. No, you always have a choice. They might be shit choices, and I think we should acknowledge, especially people in marginalized situations or marginalized people, have shit choices. But you always have a choice. Because when you say, oh, I don't have a choice, you just gave the choice to somebody else. You gave the power to somebody else. I'm not doing that. I'm not giving the big corporations like Rocky Boots that just laid me off. I'm not giving them that power. No. I'm not giving the US government, I'm not giving the nurses I've had to deal with that power. I always have a choice. And I'm choosing to move forward and stomp on the ground and it's cliche, but make my voice heard. What else is there to do? People often accuse me of being a pessimist. No, I'm an optimist. Too late to be a pessimist. I didn't come up with that phrase, someone else did, but okay, bye.